The rain poured down like sheets of glass on the forgotten jungle world of Varel 9. Thunder echoed through the thick, misty trees. The ground was soft, sticky, and wet with layers of mud. Evan Hart, a human mechanic and salvager, walked slowly, his boots sinking into the dirt with every step. His scanner beeped in his hand, looking for scrap parts buried in the jungle after an old battle. He wiped the rain off his goggles and sighed. One more useless planet, he muttered. Then he stopped. He heard something strange, a sound, not a machine. Not an animal, a cry. It was faint, weak, like someone trying to speak but had no strength. He turned off the scanner and followed the sound. His heart beat faster as he pushed past the thick vines and trees. The rain grew heavier. The crying continued. It wasn't far now. Then he saw her, lying in the mud, half buried. A woman. No clothes, no tools, no shoes. Her body was small and thin, almost too fragile. Her skin was covered in mud, leaves, and cuts. She had long, strange silver-blue hair matted to her face and back. Her skin shimmered faintly, not human but not fully beast either. She looked alien. She turned her head slowly and looked at Evan. Her eyes, wide, glowing, faint purple, were full of fear. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She looked like she had no more strength to fight. Evan stared in shock. "What the hell happened to you?" he whispered. He stepped forward. She flinched. He stopped, raised his hands slowly. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't answer. She only stared. He looked around. No camps, no footprints, no gear, no signs of anyone. Someone had left her here. To die. He took off his emergency thermal cloak and slowly moved closer. "I'm going to help you, all right?" She didn't move. Her body shivered uncontrollably. He gently placed the cloak over her. She gasped, curling tighter, her hands clutching the edges of the cloth. She was freezing, barely alive. Evan looked up at the sky. The rain wasn't stopping. "Anytime soon." "We have to move," he said softly. He reached under her carefully. Her body was so light. Her skin was cold like ice. She let out a small sound of pain but didn't fight him. Evan lifted her up and started walking back to his small ship parked on the edge of the jungle. Inside the ship, he placed her on the padded bench near the heater. The ship was warm and quiet. The hum of the engine helped calm his nerves. He brought a clean towel, warm water, and a small medical scanner. She was barely awake. Her eyes half open. She watched his every move. Evan knelt beside her and spoke gently. "You're safe now. I won't hurt you." He dipped the towel in warm water and wiped her face slowly. The mud came off. Beneath it, her face was delicate, beautiful, in a strange and alien way. Her ears were slightly pointed. A small mark glowed on her neck, like a faded tattoo. Her lips were cracked. Her arms had small cuts, maybe from thorns or rocks. She still didn't speak. He tried scanning her, but the device gave strange results. Unknown species, unstable vitals, low energy. "Who left you out there?" he asked, more to himself than her. She blinked. He placed a small piece of food near her, just in case she woke up fully. Then, slowly, her hand moved. Shaky fingers reached for the food. She tried to pick it up, but her hand trembled too much. It fell. Evan gently picked it up again and brought it to her lips. She opened her mouth slowly and took a small bite. Tears rolled down the side of her face. She wasn't just hungry. She was broken. No one had helped her in a long time. Evan's heart felt heavy. He had seen many strange things in his time. Alien war machines, crashed ships, even ghost signals from lost colonies. But nothing like this. A girl. In the mud. No hope. No words. Left like trash. He sat beside her, arms crossed. Watching. The heater hummed. The lights flickered softly, and in the silence, she spoke. One word. Broken. Soft. Please. Evan turned, his head sharply. You can speak? She tried again. Please, no cage. He stared at her. What happened to you? She closed her eyes. One tear dropped from her cheek. She didn't answer. Evan didn't press. He stood up slowly and whispered, Rest now. He turned the light down low and walked to the cockpit. Behind him, the alien girl clutched the edge of the cloak like her life depended on it. And outside, the jungle was silent, but something had seen his ship land. Something was already coming. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the silence inside Evan's ship was louder than any storm. The alien girl sat curled up in the corner, still wrapped tightly in his emergency cloak. She hadn't moved much during the night, only breathed softly like someone afraid to wake up from a nightmare. Evan stood a few feet away, holding a cup of hot broth. He didn't speak. He didn't move closer. He had seen fear before, in war, in refugees, even in beasts. But this was different. This was the fear of someone who had been broken again and again. He placed the cup on the table between them and backed away. It's not poison, just food, he said gently. She didn't answer. Her glowing violet eyes followed every step he took. Evan sat in the pilot seat and tried to act like he wasn't watching, but he was. Her hands trembled under the blanket. Her legs were covered in old bruises. She had scratches across her shoulder, fresh and raw. She looked like a creature born in pain. After a long moment, she crawled forward slowly, like a shadow moving across the floor, and sniffed the cup. Then, with both hands shaking, she lifted it to her lips. The broth was hot. She drank it fast, like she hadn't eaten in days, maybe weeks. Evan felt a strange pain in his chest. Who had done this to her? He grabbed his translator device and tapped it. Try this, he said, holding it out. The girl flinched back instantly, her body tensed like she expected a hit. No, he said, quickly setting it on the floor. I won't touch you. It's just for talking. She didn't trust it. She didn't trust him. But then, very slowly, she crawled to the device, stared at it, and tapped one button. Her lips moved, and a few broken sounds came out. Kill. After. Bond, not obey. Evan's eyes narrowed. What? She tapped again, her voice soft, rough, unsure. No bond. No use. Evan's hands curled into fists. She wasn't just thrown away. She had been rejected, like she failed some purpose. He looked down and whispered, What kind of monsters do that to someone? The girl suddenly growled, a low defensive sound, and backed into the corner again. Her body shivered, eyes wide. Evan raised his hands. It's okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about you. She didn't respond, just hugged herself tighter. Hours passed. Evan fixed small things around the ship, gave her space, left more, food and water. Every time he turned his back, she moved slightly, eating quietly, checking the walls, studying his face. She didn't speak again, but when he offered her a clean towel, she took it. When he gave her soft clothes to wear, she hesitated but accepted them. Later, she sat on the floor and drew something with her finger, tracing lines in the dust. Evan walked over and looked. It was a symbol, sharp, angled, familiar. He gasped. That symbol had been on enemy ships during the war, one of the elite bloodlines. You were part of the royal houses? He asked, his voice calm, but alert. She didn't answer. He stepped back. Something wasn't right. A royal bloodline alien left for dead? Covered in bruises and thrown into the mud like garbage? Was she a traitor? Or a secret? Or worse, was this some kind of trap? That night, Evan barely slept. He kept the lights dim, kept the door to the cockpit unlocked, kept one hand near the hidden energy pulse gun. But nothing happened. She didn't attack. She didn't run. She didn't even cry. She just sat. Still, like a statue of sadness. In the middle of the night, Evan heard a sound. He turned quickly. The girl was kneeling near his chair. Before he could react, she dropped her head to the floor and whispered something so quiet. Even the ship's sensors missed it. Evan leaned in. She said, "You, help me, not like them." He froze. She lifted her head and looked him in the eyes, really looked. Then she pointed to herself and said, "Rhea," her name. He nodded slowly. "Rhea." Then she touched his hand and whispered, "You, not monster." Outside, hidden in the trees beyond the ship, something small blinked red. A tiny scout drone had found them. It flew away into the darkness, sending a signal. They knew where she was now, and they were coming. Morning came quietly on Varel 9. The trees outside Evan's ship stood still under soft fog, hiding what was watching them from the jungle beyond. Inside, the ship's lights hummed gently. The alien girl, Rhea, sat on a blanket near the heater, her silver-blue hair now dry and combed, though still wild. She wore the soft gray shirt Evan gave her, oversized and simple, but better than mud-soaked skin. Evan made 2 cups of warm root tea and handed one to her without a word. She took it. No flinch this time, no fear, only quiet eyes that studied everything. "You slept?" Evan asked. She tilted her head and nodded slightly. "Progress." He sat down across from her, tapping on his datapad. He had already looked through old military files, trying to match her symbol from the day before. Nothing exact, but similar emblems appeared in classified royal records, the kind that weren't shared with humans. Evan looked up. "Do you understand me better now?" Rhea touched the translator again. She pressed slowly and said in broken, glitchy words, "Human words, hard, but learning," he smiled. "Good, because I've got 100 questions." She didn't speak. Instead, she pointed to herself. "Rhea," she said clearly now. Then she pointed at him. "You, who?" He blinked, surprised. "Evan. My name is Evan." She repeated it once, then nodded, and then her fingers moved again. She touched the translator. Her next words sent a chill down Evan's spine. "Bad ones. Hunt me. Not want me free." Evan sat forward. "Who? The Royals?" She nodded, then raised her arm and slowly peeled back the sleeve. On her wrist was a half-burned branding mark. It shimmered when the light hit it. Some kind of alien identification. Evan stared at it. "That's a tracking mark." Rhea looked down, ashamed. She whispered, "They own." Evan clenched his fists. "No, not anymore." But before he could say more, the ship's alert pinged. Motion detected outside. Small device. Brief signal. Evan's eyes widened. A scout drone, probably already gone. He rushed to the console. "Damn it, they've found us." Rhea froze. She stood quickly and backed into the corner again, trembling. "Rhea, no. I'm not leaving you." She shook her head. "They kill you if help me." "I'm not afraid of them." She stared, confused. "Why?" Evan looked her straight in the eyes. "Because when I found you, you were dying in the mud. Someone left you to rot like garbage, and I don't leave people behind." Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear, but something else. No one had ever spoken like that to her. She knelt again and reached into the pocket of her shirt. She pulled out a small round object wrapped in cloth, a crystal shard, glowing faintly blue. She held it up to him with shaking hands. "For you." "What is it?" She tapped the translator again. "My heart, memories, inside. Only trusted ones may hold." Evan took it gently, surprised. "You want me to protect it?" She nodded once. Then suddenly she moved forward and placed her forehead against his. He froze. She whispered something in her native tongue. It didn't need translation. It was a thank you. Too deep for words. Later that night, Rhea asked for something strange. She pointed to a tool and mimed drawing. Evan handed her an old stylus and a blank metal plate. She began to carve. Quietly. Focused. Evan watched as her hands danced over the surface, lines forming symbols, her language. When she finished, she slid it toward him. Evan held it up. It showed a map, a path through Virel 9, deep underground, leading to a hidden chamber. "What is this?" he asked. She spoke slowly through the translator. "Where truth sleeps." Then she added one more line. "Where I became nothing." Evan stared at the map. Whatever happened down there, it broke her, and now someone was coming to erase her completely. Outside, in the dark, several shadowy figures landed quietly in the jungle, silent, fast, and armed. One of them whispered into his comms. "Target signal confirmed. She's nearby." Their eyes glowed green in the mist. The hunt had begun, and Evan had no idea how fast danger was closing in. The jungle outside Evan's ship was still, but too still. No insects. No animal calls, not even the wind. Inside the ship, Evan didn't notice. He was studying the carved map Rhea had given him. The glowing crystal she entrusted to him lay beside it, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Behind him, Rhea stood near the window, staring at the trees. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. She could feel it. "They are here," she said in a low voice. Evan looked up. "You're sure?" She didn't nod, didn't blink, just whispered again, like breath on neck. He didn't ask how she knew. He trusted her now. He moved fast, pulling the metal shutters closed over the ship's windows. Then he dimmed the lights and activated the ship's silent mode. "All right," he said. "Let's think. Who exactly are they?" Rhea sat down slowly. She tapped the translator and said, "Royal hunters. Not soldiers, not law. Only silence, only death." Evan frowned. "So, bounty killers?" "No bounty," she said. "Just erase." He understood then. They weren't coming to capture her. They were coming to erase her existence. 10 meters from the ship, in the shadows, 3 cloaked figures moved silently. Their bodies shimmered with camouflage tech. Even thermal scans would miss them. One lifted a long black spear, its tip glowing. Another held a scanner showing a pulsing red dot, Rhea's location, inside the ship. They circled slowly. Evan quickly opened a floor hatch and pulled out a worn pulse rifle and 2 flash disruptors. He tossed one to Rhea. "You ever used one of these?" She took it with trembling fingers, but her eyes turned sharp. She clicked a small switch at the bottom, flipping the safety without being told. Evan raised an eyebrow. "You were trained." "Not trained," she replied. "Forced." He swallowed, hard and nodded. Then the ship's alarm chirped, a low vibration alert. "Motion. Just outside the hull," Evan said under his breath. The power flickered once. Then again. "They're jamming us," he muttered. Rhea grabbed his sleeve. "They want fear before kill? Then let's disappoint them." Outside, one of the hunters placed a small sonic charge on the side of the ship. A blinking blue light ticked down silently. 2. 1. Boom! The wall of the ship burst inward. Metal bent, smoke filled the room. The front door was gone. Evan and Rhea dove behind the pilot chair. Red light blinked through the smoke. Footsteps, silent and slow, entered the ship. Evan peeked and saw one of them, tall, skin like black glass, a curved mask over its face. It held a glowing blade in one hand. Evan waited, closer, closer, then, flash. He threw a disruptor grenade. A blinding white light exploded in the ship, making the hunters stumble. Rhea stood and fired once, direct hit to the chest. The first hunter fell. Evan fired at the second, missed. The third disappeared into thin air. Rhea turned quickly. "Invisible!" Evan grabbed her and pulled her down behind cover. "We have to get out of the ship, now." She pointed to the floor panel. "Cargo tunnel, underneath." They pried it open and crawled inside, closing it behind them. just as another spear tore through the ship wall above. The cargo tunnel led them out through a side hatch, into the jungle. They ran. Ria's legs were weak, but she pushed forward. The trees around them seemed to breathe. The vines twisted in strange ways. "We can't outrun them forever," Evan said, breathing hard. "No need," Ria said. She pulled out the carved metal plate and pointed. "Cave. Close. They can't follow. Deep." Evan narrowed his eyes. "Why not?" She stared ahead. "What's down there?" Even they fear. Minutes later, they reached a stone cliff covered in moss. Behind it, a narrow crack in the rocks, like a hidden mouth. Ria stepped in first. Evan followed, pulse rifle raised. Inside, the cave was dark, but the walls glowed faintly, covered in alien writing and crystal roots that lit up as Ria passed. "What is this place?" Evan whispered. She touched a wall gently. "My truth, my shame, my power." Behind them, the forest crackled. The remaining hunters found the entrance, but they did not follow. They stared into the dark cave and stepped back. The leader hissed something in his own tongue. "Not worth the curse." Then they vanished into the mist. Inside the cave, Ria sat on the cold ground, shaking. Evan sat beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "They will return," she said. He looked into the glowing crystals and replied, "Then we'll be ready." She looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time she said in clear English, no translator, no help, "You are different." The cave was silent. Not dead, not empty. Alive, but holding its breath. Evan looked around slowly, his flashlight bouncing off glowing walls covered in ancient alien carvings. The air was warm, heavy with memory. Even the stones beneath their feet seemed to hum, as if remembering those who once stood here. Ria walked ahead of him barefoot, hand brushing the wall like she was touching old ghosts. Her back was straight, her breathing slow, but Evan could tell she was afraid. Not of the cave, but of what it held. "Where are we?" he asked. She turned. Her eyes glowed faintly blue in the crystal light. "My birthplace," she whispered. "Not body, but purpose." Evan stepped closer. "This is where they trained you?" She shook her head. "Where they changed me." She led him deeper. They reached a wide open chamber, a high dome of rock above. Dozens of glowing orbs floated, in the air like soft stars. In the center was a stone circle, 8 steps wide, surrounded by small metallic totems. Each one carried a different symbol. She pointed at one. "My mother," then the next. "My sister," then another. "My mate, chosen by law, not love." Evan noticed one of the totems had been cracked in half. "Burnt." "That one?" he asked. Ria's face darkened. "Me." She sat on the floor inside the circle. Evan sat across from her. She didn't speak for a while. Then she said quietly, "I was born for one reason, to bond with a male from a powerful line, to produce heirs. That is all. If I refused, I was broken." Evan's voice was low. "And you refused?" She nodded. "I wanted to choose my own life. They called me defective, unfit. I was punished, tested, then discarded." Evan didn't speak. What could he say? He looked at her hands, thin. Scars ran across the skin, faint but permanent. Then she looked up. "But now, I feel different." "How?" She reached into her shirt and pulled out the crystal shard, the one she had given him earlier. It glowed brighter now. "It responds to you." Evan raised a brow. "Me?" Ria nodded. "Our connection made it stronger." "Ria, I don't even understand your world." "You understand pain," she said. "You didn't leave me, you didn't use me." Then she stood up and walked to a console carved into the wall. She placed her crystal inside a slot. The ground rumbled softly. In front of Evan, a hologram appeared, Ria's face, but younger, unscarred, wearing armor. She was in a trial room, surrounded by tall aliens in ceremonial robes. Her voice echoed, "I will not bond with one who sees me as a womb." The council replied, "Then you will be stripped, removed, forgotten." The recording ended. Rhea turned to him. "That's what this cave holds, memory, truth." She walked back to him, kneeling gently. "Evan, I want to give you something." He looked confused. "What?" She reached out and touched the side of his neck with 2 fingers. He felt a warm pulse go through him. "I share my life energy," she said. "Only once. Only to those I choose, not by law, not by blood, but by trust." He blinked. "Why me?" Her voice was soft. "Because when I had nothing, you saw me. Not as a tool, not as a danger, but as someone." He didn't know what to say. She continued, "This doesn't make us bonded in your way. No forced mating, no chains. It just means I choose to live because of you." Evan looked into her eyes. "Then I'll protect that choice, no matter what comes." Suddenly, the walls pulsed red. The crystal vibrated. A voice came through a nearby speaker, rough, sharp, speaking in her language. Rhea's face turned pale. "What is it?" Evan asked. She whispered, "They activated the blood hunt. All life linked to me will be targeted, even those who help me." Evan stood. "Then we need to move." "No," she said. "You can still leave. I can stay hidden. You don't have to." He cut her off. "I already made my choice the day I carried you out of the mud." Rhea stepped forward. She raised her hand to his chest over his heart. Then, without words, she leaned in and pressed her forehead to his. Not as a weapon, not as a royal, just as Rhea. And in the glowing cave of forgotten truths, a new bond, a chosen one, was quietly made. Not of power, not of blood, but of choice, respect, and trust. Outside the cave, the world waited, but not patiently. The wind had changed. The jungle was no longer silent. It whispered warnings in the rustling leaves. Somewhere above the treetops, black ships circled like vultures. The hunters hadn't given up. They were waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside the crystal-lit cave, Evan packed the last of his gear. Rhea sat on the stone floor, her crystal shard glowing on her palm like a small piece of her soul. "They found us again," she said, voice low. Evan looked up. "Yeah. I saw one of their scouts sweep overhead, stealth-cloaked. We've got maybe 20 minutes. She stood, stepping toward him. "You can still go." "I'm not going." "You'll die for me," she said. "They'll kill you for helping me." Evan zipped his pack shut. "Then let them try." Rhea stared at him, like she couldn't understand why this human, this soft-spoken, grease-covered scavenger, was willing to fight for her, to stay. "They trained me to kill emotions," she whispered. "To obey, not to feel, but when you held out your hand that first night, I felt something strange." Evan chuckled. "Fear?" She smiled faintly. "Hope." They moved through the narrow tunnels beneath the cave, a hidden path Rhea had never taken before. It led deeper underground, toward what she called the core room. "What's in the core?" Evan asked as they walked. "Memory, power, and one last weapon." He raised a brow. "Weapon?" She didn't explain. Instead, she stopped in front of a massive crystal door. Her fingers touched it gently. It slid open with a deep sound, revealing a round chamber glowing blue. In the center was a suspended orb. Inside it, a perfect memory sphere swirling with light. "This is my past," she said. "Everything they wanted erased, who I was before they branded me." Evan stepped closer. Rhea's younger voice echoed from the orb. A song, soft, gentle, not warlike, not royal, just a girl. "I used to sing," she said. Evan listened quietly. "It's beautiful." She turned to him. "If I die, I want someone to remember that I was more than their weapon. You're not dying, he said. Then the ground shook. Not gently, explosively. The cave's crystal lights flashed red. A deep robotic voice echoed through the walls. Target locked. Core chamber detected. Prepare for strike. Ria's eyes widened. They're going to destroy the cave. They'll bury the truth with you, Evan said. She stepped forward and placed her shard inside the orb's base. A beam of light shot up, connecting to the cave's walls. They can't erase me, she whispered. Not anymore. Evan grabbed her hand. Let's go, I have one last idea. They rushed back to the ship, taking the tunnel's upper route. The jungle outside was no longer quiet. It was full of moving shadows. The hunters had landed. 6 of them. They moved without sound, their armor black as oil, their weapons humming. Evan and Ria reached the ship just as the first shot hit. A plasma bolt exploded near the hatch. Evan shoved Ria inside and jumped behind her. Seal it! She activated the lock. Boom! Another blast hit. Evan ran to the cockpit. Hold tight! The engines fired up. The ship lifted, jerky at first, then steady. They'll shoot us down, Ria said. Not if I take us into the storm belt, Evan replied. She froze. That storm kills most ships. I'm not most. The ship blasted forward, trees whipping by, hunters firing from behind. Then, boom! The ship broke through the jungle canopy and straight into dark clouds. Lightning, winds, turbulence. Ria held onto the wall. Evan gripped the controls. One of the hunter ships followed. Fast. They're not giving up, she yelled. Evan flipped a hidden switch. Then I'll give them something to chew on. He hit the brakes. The ship flipped mid-air, straight toward the enemy vessel. Ria screamed. The hunter ship fired. Too late. Evan's ship smashed into the enemy's left wing, spinning it off course. Both ships tumbled. Inside the cockpit, smoke filled the air. Alarms blared. Evan's vision blurred. Emergency landing. Hold on, he said, voice weak. Ria crawled to him, grabbed the controls, and with surprising skill guided the ship down. Not perfect, but enough. They crash-landed in a crater near a mountain ridge. Silence returned. Kind of. The enemy ship had crashed too, but it was still active. One final hunter rose from the wreck, limping toward them. Ria grabbed Evan's pulse rifle and stepped out into the wind. You won't take him, she shouted. The hunter raised his spear. They stood still. Then the ground beneath the hunter cracked. A massive root burst upward, covered in glowing alien energy. It impaled the hunter. The ground had listened. The cave had protected her one last time. Evan lay back inside the ship, breathing hard. Ria knelt beside him, placing her forehead to his. You should have run, she whispered. He smiled, blood on his lip. I ran. Toward you. Smoke curled into the sky above the crash site. The jungle, silent again, stood still as if honoring what had just happened. Evan lay on the ship's floor, his shirt torn, his side bleeding. But he was alive. Ria knelt beside him, holding a cloth against his wound. Her hands trembled not from fear but from something deeper. I called Earth, Evan whispered. Before the storm. Emergency beacon. Someone should come. You shouldn't have done that, Ria said, voice shaking. They need to know the truth, he replied. She looked at him, really looked. His skin was bruised, eyes tired, breathing shallow. Yet he still smiled at her, like none of it mattered except that she was safe. She pressed her forehead to his again, like they had done in the cave. A bond not of blood, not of ownership, but of trust. You don't belong in this war, she whispered. Evan smiled faintly. You didn't either. Hours passed. Then, a sound from above, distant, growing louder, engines, human ones. A light broke through the clouds, silver and blue. 3 human dropships landed at the edge of the crater, soldiers in white armor rushing out with weapons raised. Scan for survivors. Medical. Unit, this way. Rhea stepped out of the ship slowly, hands raised. The human soldiers pointed weapons at her, then they paused. The leader looked at her, then at Evan, who limped behind her. Evan raised his hand. She's not a threat. She's the reason I'm still breathing. The leader lowered his rifle. Lieutenant Hart, your distress signal mentioned royal-level alien activity. We tracked unusual energy signatures. What happened here? Evan took a slow breath. They tried to erase her. Not kill, erase. She's not just a runaway. She's evidence. The commander frowned. Evidence of what? Rhea stepped forward. Of everything they hide, the forced bonds, the silence, the control, the breeding laws, the cruelty. The humans looked at her with wide eyes. She continued. I have proof. Stored in memory crystal. Location, Virel 9. Hidden cave marked with royal glyph. The commander nodded to the tech officer. Send coordinates back to High Command. Then he turned to Rhea. You'll be protected, you're under Earth's care now. Rhea blinked. You believe me? Evan stepped forward, weak but firm. We don't erase truth. We stand with it. Later, Evan sat on a medical bed inside the dropship. Rhea sat beside him, holding his hand. The medic stitched his side, whispering, You're lucky she knew how to fly. He smiled. She saved my life more than once. Rhea said nothing, but her hand never left his. The commander returned. You're both being taken to Sol Station. You'll testify before the Intergalactic Council. If what you say is true, there will be change. Evan looked at Rhea. You ready? She gave a small smile. I was born for this. Just not in the way they wanted. 2 weeks later, Sol Station orbit Galactic Hollyvan stood beside Rhea as a massive room of alien leaders, translators, and observers listened. On a tall platform, a hologram played Rhea's memories. The branding, the court ruling, the underground, trial chamber, and the pain. The silence in the room was heavy. Then Rhea spoke. I am not your slave. I am not your womb. I am not a tool to be thrown away. I am Rhea, daughter of none, voice of many. And I remember. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then slowly, a few alien leaders stood, a sign of respect. Then more. Then all. Evan squeezed, her hand gently. You did it, he whispered. She looked at him, eyes glassy. We did it. 1 month later, a quiet hill on Earth Even and Rhea stood under a tree overlooking the sea. Birds flew overhead. A breeze rolled through the grass. She wore simple Earth clothing now, and a necklace holding her memory shard, now dark and sealed. No. More running, she said. No more hiding, Evan added. Will they come again? Let them, Evan said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. This time they won't face one forgotten girl. They'll face us. Rhea rested her head on his shoulder. I once thought humans were dangerous, she whispered. And now? She smiled. Now I believe humans are the only ones who saw me as more than my blood. They stood in the quiet. No more ships, no more hunters. Just 2 lives, once broken, now whole, facing the stars together.